Hello, Abbie here of Polyspiral website design and hosting, and introducing Darren of DL Design. And today we're talking about why design is important on your website and why consistent design and why design isn't just making things look pretty. Hi Darren, tell us all about what you do.
Good morning, Abbie. Yes, as you very kindly introduced me, I'm Darren and I'm the professional services graphic designer. So what I do, I love working with the smaller businesses so that I can deal direct with the business owner and I can help them with their graphic design and their print requirements. So that's what I do. Yeah, nice to chat to you this morning.
Cool. So do you find, we often like, because I'm a website designer, but I came from a graphic design sort of background, and before that art, as you can see. And we both have similar issues with customers where trying to convince them why design is important or why they need a logo, or why, I think my particular sometimes bugbear is you give a customer a very nice logo and they go away and then they apply that logo to a bunch of things and on their website, and they use millions of different fonts and they cram stuff in. And you find that as well, don't you?
Yeah, I think the most frustrating thing is that, as you say, you spend a long while crafting a logo and designing it and getting the proportions correct. And then they say something along the lines of, oh, can I have it in a Word format? And you're like, oh my God, you just know it's going to be stretched and skewed and God knows what's going to happen to it. Yeah. So it is, yeah, it's a tricky one. But you just have to explain to them that, don't adjust the logo, leave it as it's been signed off, because it's going to start appearing all over the place, whether it's on your social media feed, your website, as you say, or even your printed material. So you don't want something that started as a circular logo ending up an egg-shaped logo, shall we say.
That's totally one of my bugbears too, is when people tend to make a logo, but you mustn't ever squish or stretch a logo or do that with fonts. And people seem to just go, oh, I'll just make it wide, I'll make it tall. Yeah. And I don't think they realise it looks like a mess. And it can look a little bit cheap as well. It looks a bit low quality, I think, don't you think?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, I think the worst thing to do is go, if you're dealing with text, for example, just go into it and apply all of the filters that you can find. So let's put a bit of drop shadow on it, a little bit of bevel, a bit of emboss, a bit of inner glow, a bit of outer glow. And what else haven't we done? Oh yeah, let's give it a 3D stretch effect. Yes. As you say, before you know it, you've got something that was quite professional. Now it's just looking comical, really. Yeah. So the thing is, less is more, I think, is the thing to think of there.
I totally agree. And I find putting space around stuff is almost as if your brain needs to breathe to take it all in.
It is. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, you can apply that to laying out a leaflet, shall we say. If you've got a folded leaflet, think about how much space there is from the edge of the text to the edge of the leaflet. Don't put it too close, because as you just said, it's almost like putting space in is giving the reader a bit of time to kind of pause and digest what they've just read. Yeah. So you don't want to cram too much into a small space, really.
It's interesting how the principles of design for print are very similar to design for web. I think the main difference with web is you're pressing stuff and once it's up on the web, you can change it, which is what I like about websites. That's why I always have to print. Once it goes to print, I'm doomed if it's something wrong.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I used to know a web developer from another networking group, and he used to say to me, he goes, oh, Darren, your job must be so hard. For the reason that you just said. It's like, well, if I've got a spelling mistake on the website, I can just log into it, amend it, update it, job done.
Yeah.
If you've got a spelling mistake on a run of 1,000 leaflets, you basically got to reprint them.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Well, hundreds of years ago, I used to work for a print company in London, and we watched a bunch of magazines, and I helped do this one magazine that went to print, and we got the magazines in and went, do you want to look at your magazine? I was like, no, I don't want to.
No. Darren, no.
I didn't add any of the text in, right? I think I'll do was laying out the stuff, but I was so worried I'd made a mistake that they didn't know about yet.
Yeah.
No, it's fine, thank you.
Absolutely.
I often find people want to cram stuff in as well. I think they on your homepage, it's probably like the front page of your leaflet, people, or your business card. People will just want to put everything they do into one place, when actually just put a little bit in and they'll find out more later.
But isn't it true though that they reckon now that you're actually better off having a video on your front page rather than lots of text?
We're doing video. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a bit of both. It depends. Like if you're in I embarrassingly in a doctor's waiting room was on my phone, and I accidentally clicked a video and it made a lot of noise in front of a lot of people, and that was quite embarrassing. So you might not want video on your homepage. We might want video as well as sort of text to back it up, because so that if you're in like a doctor's waiting room, also you've got to be quiet. You can at least read it quietly without everyone going, looking really disproving or just laughing at you, which is what happened. So it was quite funny, really. But you do need a minimum amount of text on each page. I believe it's 400 to 500 words, give or take. But as long as you write for humans, and because Google is trying to emulate a human being searching for stuff, they make it humanely readable.
I was going to say, Abbie, that I think we both know people that can write copy, and if it's not our skill set, we've got people that we can call on. And there must be a skill that you want to include the keywords in your text, don't you? That goes on your website, but as you said earlier on, you want it to be readable, so it's got to flow as text, even though it has keywords built into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the principles of design almost work with the principles of text. It's all got to flow and work consistently together, so that you're on the site for that reason, and you don't suddenly get a jarring, weird spelling mistake or a grammatical error, or someone's just crammed so many keywords in. Google's going to block you anyway, but to a reader, it's going to be, what? Wellington boots. I'm trying to say Wellington boots. You'll be like, okay, you're not buying from them then. They're just weird. It's very and high resolution images, because with the web now, not so long ago we made images 72 dpi dots per inch with retina display and higher resolution screens, which have been about quite a while now. 72 dpi looks like when you printed it out, it looks blurry and low quality. And I bet you have the same issue with me, where you get given images and they're postage stamp size, but why can't you make it bigger?
I mean, that's a whole discussion in itself. But it's very much a case of I would say somebody will come to me, for example, and say, can you design me a roller banner? As we know, roller banners are anything from 800 to 850 mil wide, 2 meters high. So you've got lots of space there to advertise what it is you want to advertise. Normally they want their logo nice and big at the top, which is fine, a good place to put it, but they will say something like, can you just go onto my website and just take it off my website? And the answer to that is, well, no, not really. I can't, because if you take a little PNG file that looks fantastic when you're viewing it online and you stretch it, it's really not going to work at all. So I have to say, can you supply it as a PDF file or an EPS file that has what we call a vector image, and put very simply, instead of it being pixels, it's paths, which means obviously, it can stretch as long as you want, as large as you want. That's one that happens quite a bit. On
the websites now, we can add something called SVG files. So we have your logo as an SVG, so that's actually as paths. So when your logo is on your website, it doesn't look blurry. It's pin sharp as well as it can be. But you and I have these kind of similar issues that we get from customers that we're trying to sort of explain politely to them. Hopefully they're going to watch this and go, I remember now, because he said that and she said that.
That's it. It's an interesting one. And again, the other classic one that certainly I get is, well, it looks this colour on screen, but when I look at it on my phone, it looks a slightly different colour. When I'm on my laptop, it looks a different colour, and when it's printed, it looks a different colour. And you have to kind of explain that it will, that there's no kind of, it's never going to look exactly the same across any device and across any material. I mean, for example, if you print something on, shall we say, a gloss paper, the ink tends to sit on top of it, whereas if you print it on an uncoated paper, it tends to soak in. So it's going to look slightly different. But I think it's a case of really, certainly when I'm designing a logo, I will have a look at colorways and see which of them look similar as a solid color to a process color. I mean, some, like oranges, for example, you just can't reproduce in process. It looks very dirty and very muddy. So always look for colors that are fairly close between their spot color versions and their 4-color process versions. At least it narrows the margin for error sometimes, that what you're seeing as a printed item compared to what you might be viewing as a PDF, shall we say.
I certainly always think of you when I design logos, and I include an orange. I'm like, will that print on, will that print all right? That'd be right on the web, and I'm, hey, that's on the web. And then you just only hope that if it prints out, it will be okay. But I was really saying about oranges years ago that they can be tricky, because I do like orange in a logo.
I do.
My favourite colour is probably purple at the moment. I have more than one of these tops, by the way. Almost my videos I'm wearing a purple top. I've got several.
I'm the same. I have more than one of these polo shirts, but it's I always look as if I got exactly the same clothes on, but I've just got multiples of the same thing.
I've been tempted to get like some different colour ones, maybe a red one and an orange one, and go through the rainbow in each video, but I keep forgetting to buy them.
Well, I was tempted to go for an orange one, but I was on a Zoom call with an image consultant, and she said to me, Darren, she goes, an orange top will not suit you. So I was like, right, fine, I like that one.
I like the idea of image consultants, but I think someone said to me, whatever you do, don't wear this colour. I'm going to buy that colour and I'm going to wear it everywhere. Because I just quite like being a disruptor in that, being a bit of a rebel. And I think for some people, for me, I was brought up, I knew about colours. Like probably the first thing I learned was, red and yellow make orange. I hope I got that right, because that's really embarrassing. But some people haven't got any sense of that, but then they know more about what they do. Like copywriters know more about writing, and they're not just colours. But it's really easy to take for granted what you already know, and then forget to tell people that they need to know this when they're supplying you stuff, or when you're sort of guiding them through the design of a logo or website. So I often find people, when I'm designing a website, they want to add. I had this is an interesting font one. I had a customer whose logo I did. They insisted the typeface was Times, not my favourite typeface, but it looked okay. You can, Times just reminds me of the internet years and years ago, before fonts were anti-aliased, and it all looked like squashed ants on a screen. It all looked a bit bitty. I had this logo to do, and she insisted on Times, and it looked okay. But she insisted the font in the website was exactly the same as the logo, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes you can get a complementary font because not all the fonts on the web are available. You can get loads from Google fonts now. You're not just down to the small handle before that. But like, maybe you can back me up on this. But fonts don't have to be the same as the logo in the design. But by all means, but don't use millions of different fonts, because it looks like a poison pen letter otherwise.
Absolutely. But no, I mean, you're right. I wouldn't suggest that you use the same logo for your text, shall we say, that's the main one in your logo. You want something that complements it. So you've got a little bit of a distinguishing between the two. But again, it goes back down to, I think now we've got so much more choice of fonts now. You've got the free ones that you can get online. You've got the Adobe fonts, as you mentioned, Google fonts. And there are so many. And also what you'll find is there are some with similar names, and their takes on what the classic fonts, shall we say, their version of. I think the temptation is probably, if you're not doing it professionally, it's like, oh, look at this whole array of fonts I've got. I'm going to use as many as I possibly can because I've got all this choice. But you're better off. I think I heard a quote once, and it was, good design is not knowing when to add, but when to stop. Know that when you know when to stop, that's you've got it there. Don't keep adding and adding and adding, because
Yeah.
you'll end up with a crowded design.
Even people, I think, being quite savvy, they end up using a different font on different things. So on their business card, one font, and then they brought out a leaflet and they got a different font, and I'm like,
yeah,
but that's breaking down the confidence in your mind of who this person is, because all the people say familiarity breeds contempt. I think it's the opposite with design. It breeds confidence in that brand, because then you always know what to expect and go, oh, that font is always that person. And yeah, even if it's a personal brand or a big business, you always use the same fonts, not because it's dull and boring and you don't have to think about it, but because it creates this consistent, smooth impression rather than sort of jarring surprise. Oh, I don't know, what is this? And I think that goes on. I think a lot of what we do as designers goes on subconsciously, or we're conscious of the subconscious, whereas other people look at what we do and go, oh, that's pretty, but they don't realise the turmoil in our heads of trying to get it right and trying to explain it and then guiding people through that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna just check my notes. Is there anything else? Yeah, so don't cram information, use fonts consistently, use high quality images, and listen to us, the designers, because how many years experience have you got?
Oh,
is it
25 plus, I would have thought. Yeah,
over a quarter of a century. Mine is 24.
I know.
Close behind. This year will be 24 years since I've been building websites. And I started when I was 30, clearly.
Yeah.
And you started when you were 30 as well, obviously.
Oh, yeah, something like that, yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. Yeah. Thanks for that. And yeah, brilliant. We'll be publishing that very soon.
Okay, well, we'll look out for it. And perhaps we'll have to make it a regular series. We could come up with a topic and then just
do that.